Hey there, welcome back to Lima Bean Living. In today's video, I'm sharing how to make one of my favorite meals, chicken enchilada casserole. So to make this casserole, you are going to need 1 chopped medium onion, 2 tablespoons of oil, 1 16-ounce can of diced tomatoes, 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, 1 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, 1 package of enchilada sauce mix, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of seasoned salt, 3/4 pound of cooked shredded chicken, 12 corn tortillas that are at least 6 inches in size, about 4 ounces of sliced olives that have been drained, and 1 1/4 pounds of shredded Monterey Jack cheese. To start, we are going to heat up a pan on medium heat and throw that oil in there. Then we are going to cook the onions until they are kind of a little bit translucent. This step only takes a handful of minutes. And then once the onions have, kind of cooked down a little bit, we are going to add in our diced tomatoes, our tomato sauce, our green chilies, our seasoning salt, our garlic powder, our enchilada sauce package, as well as our shredded chicken. Now, I just used canned chicken on this day because I have found that it's a lot easier, just to crack open a can, drain it, and dump the chicken in. But in the past, I've also bought a rotisserie chicken from Costco and shredded that up myself and used that in this recipe as well. And it's, just as delicious. So really, whatever works in your season of life. My time in this case was limited, and so I didn't have the time to get a rotisserie chicken and, get all messy, shredding it up by hand and all of that stuff. So canned chicken was just the way to go in this season of my life, but if you guys prefer, the rotisserie one, feel free. It's very delicious that way too. But anyways, we are going to just mix up all of those ingredients, turn the heat down to low and cover it up and just kind of let it simmer for about 15 minutes. You do want to occasionally take the lid off and stir it just so that the food doesn't stick at the bottom of the pan. While that's simmering, you can prepare your casserole dish. Here I have a 9x13 pan, and I'm just spraying it down with some oil before adding our first layer of corn tortillas. And around now is when you can preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. It will start warming up as we assemble our casserole. So to get a fairly even layer of tortillas in this casserole dish, I like to put 2 round tortillas, side by side next to each other, and this usually takes up the length of the rectangular dish. Then I take my third tortilla and I fold it in half and take those halves and line them along the long side of the casserole dish. And for my fourth tortilla, I fold it in half and then in half again, creating fourths, and those pieces go in the corners. But now that our little meat and tomato mixture has been cooked and simmered, we're going to add about 1/3 of that down on top of the tortillas as our first little layer. And then we're going to take 1/3 of the shredded Monterey Jack cheese and sprinkle that on top of the meat mixture. And once the cheese has been spread out evenly, we're going to take about 1/3 of the olives and sprinkle that on top of the cheese. Once the olives have been sprinkled out evenly, we're going to do the same process 2 more times. We're going to layer our tortillas, now half of the remaining meat mixture on top, half of the remaining cheese on top of that, as well as half of the remaining olives on top of the cheese, and then finally doing 1 more layer of tortillas, meat, cheese, and olives before it is fully assembled. Now, while I'm assembling this casserole, I think it's worth mentioning that the amounts of each of the ingredients could vary a little bit. You could get a can of tomatoes that are diced up that is, 1 or 2 ounces more or less than the specified amount, and this will still turn out very delicious. And in fact, I have found that a lot of the can sizes work out better if I just make a double batch of this. So keep that in mind. A double batch still fits in the pots that I'm using in my kitchen. And if you make a double batch, you can bake one for dinner that night and then assemble one and freeze it to have ready for another day. So if you're doing all the work anyways, it's kind of easier to make a double batch instead of just a single batch. So now that the casserole has been assembled, we are going to bake this for about 30 to 40 minutes or until the top is as golden as you'd like it. As I was baking this casserole on this day, I noticed that the edges were looking the way I liked, but the top wasn't quite as, toasty as I'm used to seeing it, and that could just be because my oven's been acting up recently. But honestly, that's more of just an aesthetic thing because everything was already cooked and you could really just eat it as is before throwing this in the oven. So instead of letting the sides of my casserole get even more, toasty just for the center to look a little bit more dark on top, I just figured it's better to take it out at the 40-minute mark. But I have to say, this is one of my favorite meals. It is relatively easy to make, but it looks and, feels a little bit more elaborate because of the layers in there. I love eating this with like a dollop of sour cream on top. And you can go ahead and serve this with beans and rice if you want, or, some other type of vegetable. This could also go well with some guacamole. Like, the possibilities are endless here. This is so delicious. Please let me know down in the comments if you plan on giving this a try. If you are new here, I would love it if you stick around and check out all of my motherhood content. I do more than just recipes, and I'm actually due with my 3rd child in just about a month. So there is a lot to look forward to here. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and I will catch you guys in the next one. You've made it to the end of the video. If you didn't know already, every Monday and Friday you can find motherhood and lifestyle content on this channel. And since us moms have to do it all, that may mean yummy recipes, easy DIYs, mom hacks, cleaning and organization, or just a combo of everything. Please know that you are loved and you are made for greatness, and I will catch you in the next one.